Yo, what's up guys? It's Happy Snail. Today I'm going to be rating and measuring, I guess you could say analyzing, the notorious Jeffrey Epstein. So I guess for this video I can just like slander him as much as I'd like. I mean, he's a pedophile. He did a bunch of bad stuff with all the politicians, if you know, you know. And yeah, basically he's a subhuman, as you can see already. I mean, if you know anything about this stuff, you can tell that this guy's ratios are horrible. But yeah, let's get it started. For Jeffrey Epstein's first ratio, we're going to be looking at his eye separation ratio, one of the most important ratios arguably. And you know, as you may have expected, or maybe not, he immediately fails. So if we're going to measure his eye separation ratio, we have to take a line at the pupils and a line at the cheekbones, or known as the bizygomatic width, and this is the interpupillary distance. So we're going to define what percent of this line is right here, and it comes out to 41.5%. And typically you want this from 44 to 47%, so that's actually really bad. So yeah, he's a subhuman there. That's a tier 6 flaw. Tier 7 is the highest, by the way. Next we have his facial thirds, which are also another flaw of his. So if you start at the upper third, you go down to the middle of the glabella, and then you go from the middle of the glabella down to the bottom of the nose, and then from the bottom of the nose down to the bottom of the chin. You get all 3 thirds, and that comes out to 35%, 26%, and 38%. So as you can see, there's quite some deviation between the values of his facial thirds, and ideally you'd want the upper and middle third to be a little bit closer together. Okay, this is it's good in the sense that the lower third is the longest, middle third is the shortest, and upper third is the last. But ultimately, you want, you know, the upper third and middle third to trade a bit. You know, you want the middle third to be a little bit longer here, or the upper third to be shorter. So yeah, next ratio we're gonna go to is canthal tilt. This is a rotated photo, so it was a bit tricky. Like, I just gotta get a straight line right here, and like this. As you can see, his canthal tilt is roughly 8 degrees, which is perfect in the male range, I guess. I mean, not really difficult to get a good score on that. The next ratio we're going to be doing is his facial width height ratio, which is also extremely subhuman. If we're going to take it like this, you get 1.65, which is a tier 7 flaw, which is as bad as it gets. And ideally you want this from 1.9 to 2. So yeah, 1.65 is really bad. It doesn't even look that bad, honestly, in this photo, but the math, you know. The next ratio we've got is the jaw frontal angle, and for Mr. Epstein, it comes out to about roughly 80 degrees, I'd say, probably around 80 degrees. So you typically want a jaw frontal angle of 85 to 95 degrees, but as you can see, Jeffrey Epstein's is 80. And another important ratio as well is your ipsilateral alar angle, which typically is meant to align with your jaw frontal angle. But as you can see for Jeffrey Epstein, it's not quite the case. You need to open it up a little bit to get it to perfectly align at his lateral canthus, which then gets you an angle of 87 degrees roughly, or 88 degrees, which deviates from his jaw frontal angle by about 7 to 8 degrees, which is a flaw in itself. But his ipsilateral alar angle alone of 88 isn't a flaw, so I don't mark him down on that, but I mark him down on the deviation between his jaw and his ipsilateral alar angle. The next measurement we're going to do is cheekbone settedness, which is essentially measured by taking a line at the pupils, a line at the cheekbones, and then a line going up the lips to the pupils, and a line going up the lips to the cheekbones. And basically, you want to find out what percent of this line over here is. And once you calculate it, you're gonna get roughly 74%, which isn't horrible. It's pretty normal, but 81% and above is roughly high set cheekbones, so I'd consider cheekbones around mid set, maybe mid to high, I guess you could say. But yeah, they're not super good. I mean, as you can see, it doesn't really support his under eyes that well, as it should. The next ratio we're going to do is total facial width height ratio, which is similar to facial width height ratio, but instead you're dividing the cheekbones by the tallest point, or by the entire face's height, which for Jeffrey Epstein, it comes out to 1.59, which is absolutely absurd, which is extremely overly tall. Typically, you want it to be from 1.33 to 1.38, but his is 1.59, which means that his face is 1.59 times taller than it is wide, which is extremely bad. The next ratio we're going to be looking at is jaw width, or bigonial width, whichever one you like to call it, measured at the gonian and then one at the cheekbone. If you take this, you're going to get about 87%, meaning that his jaw is 87% the width of his cheekbones, which is perfectly in the ideal range for men. I think the ideal range is around 86 to 92 or 94. I usually let it go up to 94, but yeah, 86 to 92 is pretty good. So he's on the lower end of the ideal, but it's still not too narrow. His chin to philtrum, even though his lower third is a lower third from absolute hell, like, at the end of the day, proportionately, like, his chin to philtrum is fine. His chin is 2.3 times longer than his philtrum, which is right in the range you want it to be. You want it from 2 to 2.5 typically. So for the next ratio, we're going to be doing neck width, which is obviously ideal. I mean, just look at it. His neck is wider than his jaws, so That's good. You want typically 90% of your jaw width. Nose to mouth ratio. So see, typically most people, their nose is too big, but for Mr. Jeffrey Epstein here, his nose is actually too narrow. His nose to mouth ratio is about 1.59, and typically you want your nose to mouth ratio to be around like 1.4 to 1.5. So yeah, his is way too high, meaning that his nose is too narrow compared to his mouth. Next is his mid-face ratio, which is a huge flaw of his, as you can tell. And that is measured by taking a line between the pupils and a line from the pupils to the upper lip, and then taking the measurement for this line and dividing it by this line. For Jeffrey Epstein is equal to 0.806. So this line, the line between his pupils, is 0.806 times longer than this line. Typically, you want these lines to be the exact same, which would make it his mid-face ratio 1. It just adds this overall elongated horse look to his face. I mean, it looks horrible. Eyebrow setness, you take a line right below the brows, take a line at the pupils, then you measure a line to the pupils, and then you measure a line to the brows, and you find out what percent of this line is. And once you measure that, you're going to get about 91%, which isn't actually too bad. It reflects about mid to low set brows. 91%, mid to low. So that's all right. I mean, typically you want your brows to be low set, but 91% is fine. Now for his intercanthal distance, or his ICD, which is measuring whether his eyes are one eye apart or not. If we're going to take his eye length like that and his eye length like that, as you can see, it is roughly one eye apart. So yeah, he actually passes there, surprisingly. Now for his eye aspect ratio, there's not that many good photos, honestly, but from this, he's kind of smiling. But as you can tell, honestly, like from most photos, I got an average of 3.1, which means that his eye is 3.1 times wider than it is tall, which is actually very ideal. Typically, you want this to be from 2.8 to 3.3 for males, so it's in the perfect compact zone for him. Also, his negative hooding, I guess, skews it a little bit. The next measurement we're gonna do is lower lip to upper lip ratio. So as you can see, Jeffrey Epstein's lips are practically the same. I mean, his lower lip is only 1.2 times longer than his upper lip, which isn't enough. You need it typically like 1.4 to 2 times longer than your upper lip. So yeah, if Jeffrey Epstein got some bottom lip filler, I mean, not anymore, but if you got some bottom lip filler, he'd ascend really hard. So yeah. Now for his lower third proportion, you measure it by taking a line from the nostril to the bottom of the upper lip, and then from the lower lip to the chin. If his chin was slightly bigger, his lower third proportion would be improved. But then again, if anything on his face was actually physically longer or bigger, it would be worse. So for him, you'd probably want a smaller philtrum, which is also not achievable. So he's kind of in a pickle here. Even though it's minor, it's still a large flaw. It contributes to his horse face appearance. And then last but not least, his eyebrow tilt, which is roughly 8 to 10 degrees. Ideal. Very easy to not miss this measurement. So yeah, that's for Jeffrey Epstein's front. And let me check. He scores a whopping 25.37% frontal harmony. So he's essentially, only mathematically, a 2.5 out of 10 from the front. Now let's get into the side profile. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit better than this. Alright, so onto Jeffrey Epstein's side. If you look at his gonial angle, which is one of the most important measurements, probably the most important measurement of your side profile, which is just measuring the steepness of your jaw, essentially, you'll find that his gonial angle is around 125 degrees. Yeah, about 125 degrees. Which is a flaw, which is too steep, which means that his jaw needs to be slightly flatter, actually. But yeah, it just contributes to his downgrown horse look of his face. Yeah, so a gonial angle of 125 is just above the ideal range. It's about too steep, which makes sense for Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, most of his ratios contribute to a longer face, which, you know, is caused by a steep jaw or downward grown jaw. As you can see, he has lots of downward growth going on here. So for his next ratio is the nasofrontal. I couldn't really measure it here because it's not a true side, as you can see, because you can see his other brow. And also I can see his like forehead muscles being flexed. I'm not sure if they're actively being flexed or not. But then again, this gives me an ideal measurement right here if I were to measure this like this. So I need to get a photo where he's not frauding. And in order to do that, I need to get a photo where he's dead. Yeah. So in the photo where Jeffrey Epstein can't fraud because he's literally dead, his nasofrontal comes out to about 133 degrees, which is way out of the ideal range. I mean, it's too obtuse. I thought it was ideal at first, but then I looked at the dead photo where he can't fraud, and yeah, it comes out as unideal. It's not crazy, but it's just not good. Next, for Jeffrey Epstein's mandibular plane angle, he has a mandibular plane angle of about 23.5 degrees. Yeah, his mandibular plane angle of 23.5 degrees also contributes to the steepness of his jaw, as you can see. So yeah, I mean, it's a tier 2 flaw. Not crazy, but it still contributes to that downward growth, long horse face appearance that he has. Next, for his ramus of mandible, I actually thought this would be unideal considering the steepness of his jaw, but it turns out that his ramus to mandible ratio is just ideal at about 0.6. So yeah, that's very surprising. I mean, his ramus could be longer though. So even though it's ideal, it's at the very low end. So if his ramus was a little bit longer and less steep, it would look a lot better on him. The next ratio we're going to be doing is facial convexity of the glabella, which is when you take a dot right here from the glabella to right over here on top of the philtrum to the poignon, however you say it, the chin. The fucking stupid anatomical. So yeah, Jeffrey Epstein's glabella convexity comes out to about 174 degrees, which is actually in the ideal range. So this is just measuring his profile's convexity, like how flat or rounded it is in comparison to his glabella, and in relativity to his glabella, it is perfect. It's good. It's in the ideal range. So yeah, the next angle we're going to be doing is this nasofacial angle from here to the chin, and a line from here down the nose like that. So his nasofacial angle is about 42.6 degrees. Oh, I'll just draw it. 42.6 degrees, which is actually a tier 3 flaw. Yeah, so it comes out to 42.6 degrees, which is actually a tier 3 flaw. So yeah, he gets marked down on that for sure. Next for his nasolabial angle. But yeah, his nasolabial angle comes out to 86 degrees, which is actually too acute. You'd kind of want it to be more like this, kind of open up a little bit. So yeah, just open up a little bit like this more. But yeah, 86 degrees, it is too acute. It's a tier 3 flaw. Looks bad, actually. I can kind of tell now that I look at it. Orbital vector. I mean, so orbital vector is assessed by either positive, neutral, negative, or slightly negative, negative, or very negative. I think that Jeffrey Epstein is between very negative and negative, so I'm just going to give him in between that. Like, I mean, it's not crazy. It's pretty normal for people like him, people at his age. Not people like him, but yeah, we would hope people are like him. So next for his total facial convexity angle, which is measured by taking one from the glabella, and then one from the nose, and then one from the chin. His total convexity angle comes out to 143 degrees, which is perfectly in the ideal range. He's displaying good facial convexity over here in this measurement. You can see it's not too flat or too round. I agree. I approve of this. Next, for Jeffrey Epstein's mentolabial angle. This was actually kind of weird. I couldn't really get this one that easily because, you know, you see his chin, like, it goes like this. It's kind of hard to get that angle, but, you know, I got roughly 100 degrees on his mentolabial angle, which is too acute, actually. It's not in the ideal range. Yeah, so that marks him down. So the next measurement is facial convexity of the nasion, which is measured from the nasion, of course, to the nose, to the chin, which Jeffrey Epstein scores 170 degrees in, which is ideal, but it's still on the higher end. You know what I mean? It is pretty high. I mean, it could be better, but it's fine. The next ratio we're going to be doing is nasal projection, which is measured like this. You take one line from the back to here, and then one line from here to here. And Jeffrey Epstein's nasal projection is 0.88, which is slightly over projected. I mean, you could just tell it's over projected. It doesn't look good. I mean, his nose just throws off his whole side. Next is his nasal height to width ratio, which is measured by drawing a line from here, and then drawing a line from here, and then dividing them. Which for his nasal width to height ratio, you get 0.93, which is pretty reflective of the previous ratios and other ones, where his nose is too far outward. This is a flaw, and yeah, if his nose was less outward, this would not be recorded as a flaw. Next is the Ricketts E line, which is basically trying to check. It's a lip assessment, and ideally for the Ricketts E line, you want the upper lip to be 4 millimeters behind and the lower lip to be 2 millimeters behind, but they're kind of equidistant from this line, and if anything, the upper lip is closer, so he actually fails that one. The next one is going to be the Holdaway H line, which he is ideal on because you take it from the upper lip to the tip of the chin, and you ideally want the lower lip to just be touching this, which he's perfectly ideal on. We have the Steiner line, which is taken by drawing one from the front of the nostril right down to here, which Jeffrey Epstein passes perfectly, actually. You want it to be just on the line. This is assessing if your lips are overly protruding or not. So yeah, that's actually perfect right there. Then the next measurement is the Birstone line assessment, which where you take a line from here to the chin, which is just checking if the lips are aligned. And yeah, the lips are perfectly aligned here. They're not too far back or too far out. So yeah, he passes the Birstone line as well. He passes most of his lip assessments, actually, except for the Rickett E line. So here's the nasal angle. It's taken from the glabella. Actually, you could probably say that's a nasion. The nasion to the tip of the nose to the tip of the chin. And for this one, Jeffrey Epstein comes out at about 133.5 degrees. And this is unideal, and it's because his brow ridge is actually too far forward. If his brows were more far back, making his bottom jaws be more forward in relativity, it would actually improve this ratio, which, you know, you can't actually move the brows back, so you might as well just move this part forward, which is a typical jaw surgery, actually. So yeah, he would actually benefit significantly from a double jaw surgery, like all of us. The next ratio, pretty simple. It says gonian to mouth. take it at the bottom of his lip, it lines up with his gonian. Pretty much, yeah, perfect. The next ratio is going to be recession in Frankfurt plane, which is where you draw a line through the nasion. I mean, I guess that's good enough, yeah. The line I made. Yeah, and as you can see, this is his nasion. It passes it. So yeah, he's not recessed. I mean, you can probably tell he's not recessed. The next ratio is brow ridge inclination angle, which Jeffrey Epstein has a pretty bad one. Jeffrey Epstein's brow ridge or forehead could be a little bit less sloped. So yeah, I'm pretty sure his brow ridge inclination is 28 degrees, which is a tier 2 flaw, which reflects the slopeness of his forehead, as I just said. And then the last but not least measurement is going to be his nasal tip angle, drawing a flat line like this, and then a line that goes like this. Jeffrey Epstein's nasal tip angle is about 127.5 degrees, which means that he could actually have a stronger, steeper nose bridge, because if his nose were like, say, like this, and his brow ridge maybe a little better, then it would actually be a lot better. That you see the angle, it would be more like this compared to this. So yeah, that's the flaw right there. So with all of those ratios accounted for and weighted, Jeffrey Epstein's side profile scores a whopping 48.21% harmony. I mean, he has a pretty typical side profile. It's definitely below average, but actually no, I'd say it's average. It's average. Typical side profile. His harmony is just horrible. This guy's harmony is absolute dog shit. But yeah, let's get into the final scoring. If we were to get a front profile harmony of 25.37% and his side profile harmony of 48.21%, and we were to average them, we would get 34.25%, or 3.425 out of 10 total harmony. Now that we have the 3.425, we're going to take that and we're going to average it out with his body fat factors, like his facial angularity, his dimorphism, how masculine he is, and his miscellaneous traits, like clear skin, health indicators, etc., white teeth. These types of things are all miscellaneous traits, dark brows, colored eyes, etc. Things like that. And for his miscellaneous traits, I give him a 2. For his dimorphism, I give him a strong 6.5 because he has a tall chin, he has a wide mouth, he has negative hooding on his eyes, he has a compact eye aspect ratio, he has close set eyes, and he has medium to low set dark brows and a tall face shape. So that hints at higher dimorphism, but all of his other flaws kind of throw that off. And then his body fat factors are about 4, which I would consider average because he has an average looking face. So if we were to combine his harmony score of 3.425, his body fat factors of 4, his dimorphism is 6.5, and his miscellaneous traits of 2, we get an overall harmony overall score of 3.98 out of 10, or you could just say 4 out of 10, which is an LTN, or a sub 5. So yeah, I mean, my boy Jeffrey Epstein, the pedophile, he's a subhuman, so deserved, I guess. If you guys want me to rate anybody else for the next video or have any requests, just let me know.
Yeah, I came in with the salt. Ooh, yeah, I came in with the salt. Bitch, I play red raw. Yeah.